Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy Premier League. My name is Suj.
And my name is James.
It's the international break, James. It's been eventful. I haven't really
Has
kept in
it?
touch with much international football. I mean, based on your Friday show with David on the Weekender and the obituary for Daniel Levy that I felt like you were reading out, the guy hadn't died, mate. He's just left your club and moved on to England. Whopping victory at Andorra or at home against Andorra. Loads going on, isn't there? Or
Did you
not?
watch the England game?
No, I don't watch international football at all, really, other than tournaments.
I
I
wasn't
just
fussed about it, but I was
struggle.
out with the little man and we got home at R4. So it was like, stick it on it.
Yeah,
The most eventful thing that happened in that football match was what Lee Dixon said.
I didn't hear what he said.
It's barely believable. I've heard some commentary cock-ups, but I think this is the best one ever. 10 minutes into the game, he said, "Oh, Elliot Anderson has started really well. I watched him boss the game last week for Newcastle against Leeds."
Oh, okay, uh, okay. Maybe he's just referring to a fixture between Newcastle and Leeds
Well,
from
I couldn't work about it
three
because I do
years
this a
ago.
lot. People say to me, "Oh, you said this person." I'm like, "Oh, it's just a slip of the tongue." Like anybody can make a slip of the
Who,
tongue and say them.
who's
But
he think? Lewis Smiley?
how
No.
did you actually get? I spent ages. I spent most of the first half trying to
Yeah.
work out where he got this from in his head
Yeah,
because
because
no one
is he
dom.
the wrong player or wrong
Yeah.
fixture?
No one dominated for Newcastle against Leeds. It was a terrible game.
Yeah,
Anderson's Forest got their ass handed to them by
I
yourselves, so he
remember.
obviously didn't dominate in that game. So where did he? It's like, where did he get it from?
And commentators and pundits and stuff, they have their notes and stuff. You'd think, like, when you see good commentators talking about how they prepare for games, they've got things written down on all of the players and stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe he got fed some dodgy information. Listen, yeah, he's done himself no favors there.
Also, I worked out why it was so boring as well. Too many
Gone.
Arsenal players, mate. Too many Arsenal
Oh,
players.
okay. Well, that's a segue into today's podcast. Obviously, being international break, there's no FPL specifically to review. However, a week ago, the transfer window did close, which means we now kind of have the finalised squads for all of the 20 Premier League teams. If you want a bit of a rundown on the transfer window and every single club, I recommend you just go back and listen to the Weekender from Friday, where James and David went through all of the clubs, all of the new signings. Some of them very quickly we know about because it's from within the Premier League. Some of the players that have come in from overseas, you've done a little bit more of a kind of deep dive into what we might expect from them. So in today's episode, we're not going to be looking at those transfers specifically, but the context of now that we know the squads, the question that we get asked all the time. And also, I think one of the questions that a lot of people ask in FPL that I don't put a lot of stall on around minutes. Is he nailed? Can we bank on the minutes, James? Is he going to get the minutes? Is he nailed? Are they going to play? Ugh.
Yeah, it's probably most bar Ishmael Assar replacements. It's probably
Yeah.
been the most.
Well, yeah, for the current time, I'm talking about like as a generic general question, particularly preseason as well. Is he nailed?
Yeah,
Yeah. I tell you why, from my point of view, because of the depth of squads and the amount of football they have to play nowadays, I think the concept of nailed just doesn't slash shouldn't exist, really. I think
not really.
most squads now will rotate one or two here or there, try and keep it fresh, keep it moving. Obviously, I had Harvey Barnes in the last game week and he didn't start, which I didn't expect. But then I just look at it as he can still do damage in the last 15, 20 off the bench. It's not like he hasn't previously. You're gonna 5, 10 times across the course of the season get a kick where you think someone's going to start and they don't. Over stressing minutes sometimes makes you lose sight of what they are capable of. Like Harvey Barnes does well against Wolves in the next game week, and it makes up for anything in the previous game week. So I think the whole concept of minutes and nailed, I get it, and I get why people obsess over it because you want to guarantee as many minutes as you can. But it's not something that I always put a lot of time into.
Yeah, what I'm going to do on this was essentially have a run through of all 20 teams. and kind of give an update of what we think strongest 11 is basically on each.
Mm.
Some, like Crystal Palace, are going to be like a really short conversation. Others, we've say like my team and your team, Suj, where we've added a few new players, probably a little bit of a deeper discussion in terms of what that might look like. So what I've done is, and those on YouTube will be able to see this, I've put together a graphic essentially of formations, best 11s for all 20 teams, and a list of kind of available players in reserve as well as part of that. And I've starred a load of players in each team, and those are players that I believe are pretty much locked, as in any given average bog standard game, unless there's, 3 day turnarounds or things like that. These guys will nearly always play. That's my kind of read on it. So we're gonna have a run through A to W, which means we have to start with the enemy, Suj.
Your enemy indeed being Arsenal. I mean, this lineup, Raya in goal, Saliba Gabriel as two centre backs, Timber right back, Calafiori left back. You've got Zubamendi holding, Rice ahead of that with Odegaard ahead of that, Saka right, Ez left, Gokeres up top. Um, I mean, when you look at the bench, I would take Ben White, Mascara, Hincapi, Lewis Skelly as my back four at West Ham, and it would be better than what we have. So their reserve back four is better than our back four
Well,
first
their
choice
second team would probably
competitive. I
still
mean, yeah,
qualify for
we're
Europe.
just
They'd be
looking at
close.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's scary how much depth they have. So the fact that you haven't starred Timber Calafiori, I totally understand because okay, Hincapi's new, we don't know what we're going to expect, but Lewis Skelly was performing incredibly well when he was in the team. Ben White is still a threat. On that left hand side with Eza coming in, it's still a bit of an unknown. So you've got depth there in Martinelli. Trossard can play there as well. Even maybe pushing Havertz out there if they wanted to get him into the team. So I can understand where you've locked the players in and where you've left your stars off. I think it's pretty straightforward. I agree with everything you said there, really, or
Yeah, I
chosen with
think
them.
Arsenal through the spine area is very, very clear. And obviously, like L'Equipe are reporting at the time, recording that Saliba's likely out for a month. So
Mm.
these teams aren't designed to tell you what the team's going to be in game week 4. It's more like, right, if everyone's available, what looks best here, basically. So we know Saliba would be
For the
first choice.
French listeners that we have, l'équipe, because
Oh,
there's
okay.
few that are going to turn in their grave.
Sacre bleu, mate,
L'Equipe,
honestly.
l'équipe. But yeah, that's the depth this year compared to previous seasons for them in that spine. Like Norgard coming in for Zubamendi, you'd be fine with. Yeah, they have got a lot there.
Yeah, I think the question marks on Arsenal at the moment is fullbacks regularly. I think there's a desire to protect Timber a little bit more this year as well. I think with Calafiori, whether he plays might be dependent in terms of what Arsenal want out their left back. There is a little bit of a thinking that if Eze plays off the left, he can drift inside, and therefore they want a fullback that's more prepared to push on, like a Calafiori or a Hincape, rather than a Lewis Skelly. I know a few of the Arsenal fans think Lewis Skelly might even get used more in midfield this year. He's a very good young fullback, so that he's very comfortable playing left back for England again on Saturday. So I think the question marks on Arsenal in terms of best team is probably a bit of rotation in terms of the fullback areas isn't secure. Eze, just kind of how he fits in, I'm pretty confident he will be first choice, but I don't think that's something we could look at right now and go, I know that he'll play every week for them. The two centre backs and goalkeeper are obvious. I think the midfield three are Zubamendi, Rice, Odegaard. I only see that changing if either Zubamendi or Odegaard had, for whatever reason, a serious loss of form. We know when Saka's back, he'll come back in the team. And it's pretty clear why Arsenal bought Gyökeres. So that doesn't mean that someone like Gyökeres is never going to get rotated. It doesn't mean that at all. But I think it's clear that the intention would be that he's going to play.
Yeah. Should we talk about Aston Villa?
Yeah, a little bit more to debate around
Mm.
some of their members of the team. So best 11 for me, I'd go probably currently Martinez, Cash, Konsa, probably Mings and Dean. But I think Mings could be Torres and Dean could be Matson on any given day. I think Kamara, Tielemans as the two ideally. And then Morgan Rogers will definitively play. It's just a question of where. I think they might go with Elliot right, Sancho left, and obviously Ollie Watkins. We know will play the majority of games up front. The question mark is quite how Sancho and Elliot fit in and who would be first choice left-sided centre back and left back?
Yeah, I mean, depth. So you're talking about Onana, who's had a good season, but I don't see where he fits in. Probably in Kamara's role more than in Tielemans' role. McGinn's the captain. Is McGinn captain or Mings? I'm not sure.
That's a good
I feel like
question. I'm not
McGinn
sure.
wears the
Sorry.
armband more, but he's one of those players where maybe what he lacks in technical ability or quality, he makes up for in leadership and endeavour and work rate and what have you. So
I
I
think
find it
Conser's
very
really
difficult getting.
grown in that element as well.
Yeah, true. But I think sometimes they'll find a way of shoehorning McGinn in. With Elliot and Sancho, ultimately new players in the squad. So we can't really have a read on what Good Evening is thinking until we see how they set up. Because I mean, I think Elliot maybe might be better as a 10 centrally, but he won't play that role in the way that Rodgers will. Rodgers is all action, up and down. He'll get back and drive with the ball and stuff. Elliot a little bit more of a creative kind of player. Yeah, it's difficult to have a read on how the new players will slot in. At the back, I think I'm in agreement. I mean, Martinez,
I
they're
didn't
going to
start
just
him.
all hug and kiss and make up.
Well, I
I'm waiting
guess
for the press
I'm
conference.
sure that they
Emmy
will. Marco Bizzo.
Martinez. Emmy.
I mean, is
Mar-
there a small chance that he still goes to a Turkey or a Saudi Arabia? Is there still a small possibility of that?
Oof.
It depends
Yeah.
how annoyed Emery is, right? I guess so. But I mean, if they kiss and make up, then it'll obviously be in goal.
I
I'm
think judging on the
assuming
start of
that's
the
what will happen.
season right now, they just need to kiss and make up and get back to winning ways, Villa. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Elliot's important to this. I'm pretty confident that Elliot will be first choice. It might not be like immediately, but I think that Villa team, if it misses something, might be. We saw that in the two home games, particularly a little bit of creativity. If you're kind of stopping off Tielemans, like Rodgers is great as a carrier, but he's not someone that might unlock a door or
Unlock a door.
pass through lines. Like Elliot might find Rodgers, so I can foresee Rodgers being the 10, but I mean, this could easily be, I mean, that makeup of Elliot, Rodgers, Sancho, it could easily be that, but in different positions. Like Sancho could play right, Rodgers left, Elliot 10, for example. Like
Mm,
there's different ways of doing that. And I certainly acknowledge like John McGinn could well find himself as a makeup of that midfield, almost in any of them positions.
yep. Yeah, I'm not confident on Sancho because of his historical. I just need to see it before I believe it with him. I mean, he had a few good games for Chelsea and then petered away. So until I see it with him, I wouldn't put a much stall on Sancho being reliable. But they've clearly bought him for a reason. So we shall see how that unfolds. Cherries.
Bournemouth, yeah. There's a
Mm,
few question marks here, and what kind of struck me when I put this together, and I'd been feeling it anyway, just because recently they'd played games without Clivert and Christie. Actually, very quietly they've improved the depth. It feels like people like you've they bought Ben Doak in from Liverpool. You forget about that. Romain Adley, I've actually got him penciled in as potentially going to be a first choice player here. So the Bournemouth 11 I've put together is Petrovic in goal is a lock, no problem. Jimenez at right back, who they've got on loan from AC Milan. I'm intrigued to see what Neil Grover's opinion is of that on tomorrow's Clash of Correspondents. Diakite and Senesides, the centre backs, I think are now probably safe. They did get another centre back, Milicevic, but he's young. He's only 18. So I think Diakite and Senesi is now fine. I was concerned about Senesi and those who were going there before the window closed. I'm now not. So I know he's been doing great on the DEFCON. So if people want to pick that up, that's fine now. Truffert has done really well at left back. That's secure. Tyler Adams, as long as he's fit, I think it's a definite.
yep.
I really like him.
Yep. I would almost
Some
go so far as to say Scott alongside him, mate, to be honest with you.
Not quite. So the rest of the makeup I put together, Semenyo will definitely play. Whether that's going to be left or right is kind of
Mm.
dependent. That can change from game to game. Evan Nilsson as the nine, definitively. The others I put in Adley, I put in Scott, and I put in Cliver, but I don't think that's like an immediate. Like it could easily be the same team that beat Tottenham starts against Brighton in game week 4. So leaving Tavernier out of that, and regular listeners will know I think quite highly of Ryan Christie as well. So there's good options in those positions. Like I don't think if we'd have
Brooks
done
as
this,
well.
If we'd have done this pre-game week one, there's no way we'd have sat here and not put like a star on Cliver, as in, yeah,
Yeah.
definitively first choice. I don't think we can at this minute.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they've eased him back into the season, I agree with. I was mentioning there Brooks, like you were raving about him
Great.
against your team as well in the last game week, so he can slot in on the right hand side potentially. Against you was Semenyo left, then and Brooks right.
Semenyo left, yeah.
Yeah, you see, I prefer Semenyo on the right, I think, but obviously they've got a wealth of talent on the right and not so much on the left, so he can fill a role there potentially.
I think he ends up in a weird way, like a lot of people we prefer from the right and cutting in. With him, he seems a little bit more direct, and actually, like his ball striking left or right is both absolutely fine. You know what it is? It's the power
Yeah.
striking, isn't it? So,
Mm.
I think probably left at the moment for Semenyo. There's no doubt he's first choice anyway, whether it's
Yeah,
left or
he'll be on
right.
the pitch. No doubt about it. Yeah, agree with you there. There'll be the
The-
micro rotation within Bournemouth's front
yeah, I
five.
think I
So,
think the big takeaway now the window's closed is I think those two centre backs are safe.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas I wasn't sure that they were till the window shut.
And we think defensively they'll be okay as well, whereas we were worried when they'd lost when they were looking at losing so much of their backline.
They've impressed,
Mm.
and obviously it's two clean sheets in the last two as well. I mean, they were completely untroubled basically in those two games against Wolves and Tottenham. I would be a bit concerned for them if they had injuries in that area. Like the attacking areas looks really strong in terms of depth. Even say someone like Ennis, who now might come back into training this month and might nick a few minutes of Evan Nielsen towards the end of games. Defensively, I mean, it's even more reason to look at it and go, actually, it feels quite safe. Right back is very questionable in terms of whether that's a Rojo, Smith, or how well Jimenez is going to get favoured. I think that's up in the air.
The Bees, Brentford, where we've talked about some of the squad so far having a little bit of depth. I'm not as enamored with the depth that they have. Talk us through your starting 11 that you think for them.
Kelleher in goal, obviously. I mean, the two
Mm,
centre backs, Collins and Vandenberg, are clear and they're going to be
yeah.
good for DEFCONs. I think fullbacks, there's still a bit of debate around Kyoto and Lewis Potter. So it might even be opponent whether Lewis Potter gets favoured over Rico
Rico
Henry or
Henry.
not.
Mm.
And on the right hand side, we can't quite be sure on Coyote once Aaron Hickey's back up and running as well. Touchwood, hopefully he will be. Henderson and Yarmulke have done better over the last couple, but there's still plenty of competition there. And Vitaly Janelt's missed the start of the season, and we can't quite know when he's available who gets impacted by that, I think. So central midfield, there's still a bit of a debate. The attacking four, I'd be pretty confident in now. Tara, Damsgaard, Sade, and Thiago. And I think Thiago's kind of another one to scream about and say, I'd warned so many times, like there's every chance Brentford are going to go and buy another nine here. If Thiago got injured, who replaces him at nine is probably within the squad, i.e., be it Sade or Utara moves
Or
into a more
within the
central area.
starting 11 rather than
Pretty
within the
much,
squad.
yeah.
I
So
look at that, take any of them get an injury, and I'm looking on the bench, and I'm not seeing a lot that it fills me with, oh, these will fill the gap and goals and stuff.
no, it's light,
Mm,
isn't it? I think the
mm.
attacking ones in terms of depth feels a little bit like
Yeah,
they've
If
signed Reece
Vandenberg
Nelson on loan from Fulham.
if Vandenberg got injured and Pinnock had to come in, I think that's all right. Aaron Hickey, you said, is still there on the bench. Rico Henry, like defensively, they got a little bit more depth, but up top, yeah, not looking
And
great.
central midfield's got depth as well. So we forget people
Mm.
like Nyeka, Matthias Jensen. We haven't seen a lot of Milambo yet. Konak played a little bit towards the end of last season. So they've got numbers midfield. It's a little bit of concern about the attacking areas of it. Obviously, with a side like Brentford, though, because of no European commitments, they won't change the team too much, I don't think, from that perspective. So this does make these guys quite attractive as and when the fixtures look better. They don't look particularly great at the moment, but yeah, Otara, Damsgaard, Sade, Thiago, I'd be pretty confident in that as the top four, the two centre backs and goalkeepers. It's just question marks on fullback areas and midfield for me.
Yep. With the Seagulls, Brighton, you've starred six of their players. Verbruggen in goal. The centre backs you've put down is Van Heck and Dunk. On the fullbacks, De Kuiper on the left, Veltman on the right, unstarred, I would say. Midfield of Baleba, now we know he's not going to Manchester United, and Hinshelwood. In front of that, Minter, Gruder, Mitoma, and playing up top, Jorginho Ruta.
Yeah, I don't have much of a clue in terms of what Brighton want to do in the central attacking areas. I mean, it's up for debate with Welbeck, Gruder, Gomez can play in that area. You can push a Yari or Hinshelwood into a more advanced area. I think the two centre backs are pretty safe at the moment, Van Heck and Dunk. I do feel, and I know Sam Murray mentioned it even on Correspondent Week this year, that Dunk might get phased out. I spoke about this at the start of last season, and they've got options there that we haven't really seen yet, in the likes of Coppola and Buscagli. We shouldn't forget about Kadioglu, who's obviously had a long injury, is kind of nearly back involved. I think right back feels like it's between Veltman and Vifa. Vifa missed the City game with an injury. He is by trade a central midfield player though, who's obviously been playing right back. So I think that's the toss of a coin. Baleba would be first choice. Who plays with him between I think particularly Hinshelwood and Ayari is quite up in the air. I think the striking thing I felt when I looked at the squad was I felt Minter and Mitoma felt a lot safer than I felt about them in the past. That felt like it stood out to me. In the
Yeah, I
past,
mean,
that where people like Adingra have gone, for example, like
yeah.
actually, when I look at who would play out wide, it's questionable. So those two, I think, are pretty safe now, Minter and Mitoma.
With Brighton, I look at through the subs bench, and there's plenty of players there that I've never heard of really, or have any knowledge on. Your Boscaglis and Coppolas and Simas and Kostula. These are the Greek players that some of them are that they've got in
Those
and stuff.
two are young forwards, those
You
boys
know
up
they're going
front,
to
yeah.
be all right because Brighton do good business. But I can't comment on what that depth particularly looks like. Look, against City, it was James Milner coming off the bench and adding value, isn't it? So yeah,
Well,
it'd be
they've
interesting. Or did he
to
start
sum
that
them
game? He
up.
came off the bench, didn't he?
They've had a penalty in each game so far this season, and I couldn't tell you who would take the penalty if they got another one next week.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I'm not sure. Depends who's on the pitch.
Yep.
Because if you look, that they've had O'Reilly, Welbeck, and Milner take a penalty. Now, if that's the 11 that plays at the weekend, none of them are starting.
Mm,
So I still don't know who would be on pens. Maybe they're going to end up with 38 different penalty takers across the season. I think Rutter would have favouritism for me because of his variety in that position over Welbeck, but it could easily be Welbeck, couldn't it? And
yep.
I think Gruder's going to get the nod in the short term because of that substitute appearance against City, but it didn't feel that way a couple of weeks ago. So I think the attacking position essentially for Brian, so many different little combinations that could be. Minter, I think, is probably the one that maybe gets more on radar just looking at this graphic.
Burnley, Scott Parker's Burnley. We have some popular picks in there in the budget kind of areas, particularly defensively with Estev and Dubravka. You've starred all of the back five, including the goalkeeper, Dubravka in goal, Ekdal and Estev as the two centre backs, with Hartman on the left, Kyle Walker on the right. And outside of that, you've only starred one other player. So you've got a midfield that's got Larson, Cullen, Gochukwu in the middle with Hannibal, Anthony out on the left, and Lyle Foster up top. I definitely think Jaden Anthony is a lock within that team. He's had a good start to the season. He's picked up a few returns as well. Outside of that, I think Brun Larsen's pretty decent from what I've seen in the highlights and of him playing so far as well. Lyle Foster's been decent. So I think those two maybe I would possibly put a star on as well.
I think
Yeah.
on Larson, obviously what they've been doing in games, and even did this in the Sunderland game once they got in front, was they funnel that into the right side of midfielder, becomes right back basically without the ball. Walker tucks in and they form a back five.
Mm.
And that's where Oliver Son obviously had a little bit of favouritism. He played in the first game at Tottenham. So I didn't think from that perspective that Larson was absolutely secure. And you could even have someone like Axel Twanzebe or Connor Roberts, who have both kind of had their injury issues, might even end up playing that role as well.
Yep.
So I didn't think Larson could be secure. In terms of the central midfield, I'm pretty sure on Josh Cullen, but his signing of Luis Florentino, kind of as discussed with David on the weekender, like it feels like he's got to be the central. It is kind of like the sitter. But I feel like Ogochukwu was that, and I feel like Cullen's that as well. So it's just kind of left a little bit of a question mark in terms of a little bit of an unknown in terms of central midfield. It could even be that it's those three, all of them, and say someone like Hannibal misses out, or maybe even Hannibal drifts to the right. We haven't seen anything of Zion Fleming or Mando Breuer to know how secure Foster is. He started the season quite well, but most people probably thought pre-season that Fleming would probably be the first choice in that position. And I also think someone like Chiruna is a little bit of a wild card who's a really attacking player and can play in the wide positions. I don't quite know if he's been kind of eased into the squad so far. So I think in the attacking positions, it's quite up in the air at the moment. Defensively, he's all anybody's been looking at, strangely, for a team that most people think will go down. But yeah, Esther Vekdal, if you want a 4.0, if you're on wildcard this week, like, I don't think there's any reason to think those wouldn't be first choice. Maybe there's a small threat from Twan Zabi, but I think that will be the pairing.
And obviously Dubravka is the only playing 4.0 goalkeeper at the moment. So most will go with him if they're wildcarding or if they haven't already got him sitting on the bench.
There's no reason to think that's going to change.
Chelsea, obviously a wealth of talent and players at Chelsea. They've obviously been busy in the transfer window as well in the summer. Talk me through your lineup here. I'm assuming you have left Levi Colwill out because we know he's
ACL,
not available for
yeah,
quite
players
some time.
like I kind of visualize this in my mind as in like between now and sort of Christmas. Anybody who's not going to be available between now and then, I just kind of left out the squad basically.
Yep.
I didn't think there was much point. So yeah, that's why Levi Colwell's not listed here. Sanchez goalkeeper, obviously clear now. I think probably favoured back for is probably James, Adarabioyo, Chalobah, Cucurella. Cucurella's the only one that feels like a lock though, and I'll speak about that more in a sec. I think Caicedo, Fernandez, Palmer, will play 90% of the games. That's fine. João Pedro, I'd kind of put in the lock area at this moment with the lap injury, certainly in the short term, to think that minutes will be fairly secure. I'm sure there'll be occasions where he does get rotated, but I think he'd be part of Chelsea's best 11 at the moment. The wingers, there's question marks. I put Neto and I've actually put Garnacho at the moment. I don't think Garnacho will start in game week 4, but I think he will become first choice for Chelsea on the left-hand side. But it leaves a question mark. That might not be the case. I think you could get enough rotation between those two and, say, Esteval, who's really impressed already. You've got Bino Gittins there as well, to not feel as secure about them as the players that kind of feel more the central areas, basically. And with the defenders, obviously, which side Adarabioyo plays with Chalobah, or rather Chalobah plays with Adarabioyo, seems quite dependent on who starts right back. We know that there'll be some rotation between Reece James and Malo Gusto. Also, with the two centre-backs, although that's clearly the first choice starting two, we don't quite know if Wesley Fofana fits in here or not. Like, he's obviously had his injury issues. Wesley Fofana at his peak as a top defender. I'm pretty sure those two are okay at the moment. I think Chalobah is the stronger of the two. But Enzo Maresca has spoken in the past about saying that Adarabioyo's now, with Colwell injured, the only one that's comfortable in the centre of the three in build-up. So I just think it leaves just a small question mark on those centre-backs, that's all.
The James Gusto rotation is pretty straightforward. I do think Fofana is a better player than Adarabioyo, but I don't know whether they will just take it easy with him because he's had so many issues with injury. And the same goes for like Romeo Lavia, right? You're looking at Chelsea's record when he played and when he didn't. But Caicedo and Fernandez as a two are playing so well. I don't know how you break that up to get him in, unless sometimes you whack Caicedo at right back, which they did last year, but that was more as a result of injury as opposed to.
I don't think, again, like, with some of the fixtures Chelsea got at certain stages, like, Sunderland at home game week 9, I don't think we couldn't look now at any of those players, and other than probably, well, maybe not even Sanchez, even including Sanchez, because like Jorgensen played at Southampton and Ipswich last year, didn't he? We couldn't look at any of them players now and go, yeah, definitely play against Sunderland in game week 9.
With the attacking options, I think João Pedro, I like him, and Palmer is locked because obviously João Pedro can move around in terms of position, so they'll find the way of getting him in. He started the season well. I'd put Neto above Garnacho in the pecking order. Garnacho for me is, again, because he's new to the club, we haven't seen anything from him. Wait and see. I think if you're a Gittins or an Esteval, you're looking at it thinking, well, hang on a second, what's this guy doing to deserve to be in ahead of me? I'm not as convinced on Garnacho in terms of his output, but I can see why you've put him in there. I think Neto to the left and then either Esteval on the right and still keeping Palmer, or play Esteval centrally and push Palmer right might be the way they go. But the fact that we're debating this shows the flexibility that they've got, and we'll see it mixed up quite a bit with Chelsea. They've obviously got Champions League to contend with as well. They have got some depth there. What's the prognosis on the lap? Is it weeks? Do you
Well,
know?
I think Cunha apparently is already on a bike. He's probably really unlikely for the Manchester derby. But if you just separate those, well, in fact, you can put Sarr in this as well. We didn't know if Sarr was faking it, right? Because he got booked for simulation, but he did grab his hamstring. Cunha kind of stopped quite slowly. The lap was in full running motion. Uh oh, that's probably minimum 2 months, Liam, to that.
Right. Okay.
I would
So
think
it'll be a little while.
you'd be lucky to see him before November.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's Christmas.
Eagles, Crystal Palace, James. I think Crystal Palace is the team that you put the most stars on.
Yeah. Now factor into this, there's players in here who are going to be out for a while, Wharton and Sarr, but I think we've spoken about this, Palace's first choice team is easy to read. And to be honest, I probably should have put a star on the one that I haven't, which is Will Hughes. So
Yeah.
Henderson in goal, back three, Richards, Lacroix, Gay stayed, so that's obvious. Munoz and Mitchell as the wing backs. Small question mark, maybe on Mitchell. Sosa's been favoured in the European games so far, but I suspect that might just be how it continues. Wharton and Hughes midfield two, Sarr and Pino behind Mateta. It's just really straightforward. I only one really to probably debate in there at the moment is Kamada could easily, and I'm sure Kamada's going to play quite a bit in the near future because of Sarr and Wharton's injuries. But I think when they're all available, if Palace had a cup final tomorrow and they're all fit, that's the team.
That's a team. Yeah.
It's
I
not.
agree with you.
I don't think it's particularly in question, bar
Yeah.
a little bit doubt of Kamada. So yeah, straightforward. The concern on them would be depth with this
Mm.
Conference League, and
Yeah.
you've
I'm
got
looking at
Wharton
the
and
like.
Sarr injured, and
So if Wharton or Hughes are out, is it Lerma coming in, but he's defensively minded, or
I think
Decore?
Glasner likes Lerma as a centre back even. So I think in Glasner's mind, Lerma is the first choice centre back cover. Decore is still injured at the moment. He's not going to be available for a while. Remain Essay's not been favoured too much. Devaney might get some minutes in the near future, but I think their best 11 is nearly clear. Probably the clearest, I'd say, of all 20.
Well, moving on to the Toffees and Everton, you've still got 10 stars on Everton as well. And I think that team pretty much picks itself as well. I agree with you. Pickford in goal was pretty straightforward. A back four going right to left of O'Brien, Tarkovsky, Branthwaite, Mikalenko. In front of that, you've got James Garner and then Idrissa Gueye with the three behind the striker of Grealish on the left, Dewsbury Hall in the 10 position, and Dye off the right. You haven't starred birthday big man, bad boy Beto, or whatever Clayton wants to call him, because obviously the rotation with Barry is a risk in that position. We've already seen it so far this season. But the rest of that 11, the first 10 that I named, I am in agreement with you. I can't see anyone on the bench that I believe would be a threat to that. Now, they have got Tyler Dibbling that they want to integrate in. They've got Dwight McNeil, that's a good creative player. Alcaraz's Robinham in midfield can provide cover. They'll try out Michael Keane if they need to. But I
Well,
do
that's
think
what they're
that,
doing at the moment, isn't
yeah,
it? But I
that
don't
10,
think.
that's not first choice. That
I,
10 that you've starred is for me as well,
yeah,
agreement, first choice.
I don't. There's no doubt that when Branthwaite is available, which is probably, by the way, still probably over a month away, but when he's back available, Keane's performances may mean they don't need to rush it, but Keane's performances by then might also make them feel like they need to rush it. So there's no doubt that Branthwaite will come back in. Yeah, it feels like the only question mark at the moment is the 9. I think Beto does have favouritism. I think David Moyes, it feels like he's been trying to coax more out of him with some of his comments. Like he didn't start the Brighton game, but it was back in against Wolves and scored. So it's certainly Beto's shirt at the moment, I think. But that's probably the biggest direct threat to the attacking positions, I would say, is Barry for Beto. Doesn't feel like a need to force Diblin in. I think we should remember in the last few months, Diblin wasn't even regularly starting for Southampton.
Yep.
So with Ndiaye and Grealish's form and Dewsbury Hall, feels like no reason to force that. That makeup, essentially, is what Sean said to us on Correspondent Week, is that he really wanted to play James Garner as like the deep lying central midfield player. to have the creativity of like a Dewsbury Hall and the work energy of Idrissa Gana Gueye in front of that. It would help them with their build up. They'd play better football as that. As soon as Mikalenko was back available against Wolves, James Garner straight back into that position. Irogbenham dropped out. So I mean, another one that feels really clear at the
Yeah.
moment is Everton's lineup.
Let's talk about Fulham here. Similar to some other clubs we talked about, you've pretty much locked in the defensive side of it, but they do have options in attack and obviously new signings to integrate as well. You've gone with Leno in goal. I think a centre back pairing of Anderson and Bassi. I agree with Kenny Tete on the right, Anthony Robinson on the left. So that's
When
your
fit.
back five when fit, of course. Yeah. Sander Berge in front of them with Sasa Lukic alongside him as well. The three behind the striker, Kevin on the left, obviously a new signing to the club. Josh King in the 10 position. I mean, he's still young, so whether or not they want to keep trotting him out, but they have been so far. Chukwueze on the right, behind Rodrigo Muniz up top. The only thing with that front four, and I'm in agreement as to why you've not signed it, is there's new signings in there, and so we don't quite know how he's going to try everybody out. Harry Wilson's ended up staying. There was the Leeds bid, wasn't there? So he's
Yeah,
obviously had a
to be
good.
honest, that's why I put Chukwueze in because I
Yeah,
think there was maybe might let him go.
it won't
And
be
they
on the
switched to
left.
a
It's
back
been
three, and he was the one that was left out. I don't think we can say that's secure.
Iwobi's been all right on the left. I think they've obviously bought Kevin as an upgrade or an improvement, but he hasn't done anything particularly
I
bad in the
mean,
last 12, 18 months.
Chukwueze, King, Kevin could easily be Wilson, Smith Rowe, Iwobi, couldn't it?
Iwobi. Yeah,
And Muniz
absolutely.
could easily be Jimenez.
Jimenez. That's why, yeah. I think we'll see rotation in around that. But the rest, I think, is pretty locked
And
in. You think right back?
Sessignon,
It's
obviously, once Robinson's fit, you kind of put back into those attacking positions maybe as a competition as well. So the attacking
Castagna at right
positions,
back over Tete? Definitely
nah,
Tete's first choice.
Tete, yeah, they've obviously both played the last couple when they've played in a back three, but I'm pretty confident Leeds and Brentford next two home games. I'm pretty confident they'll go back to a back four, and I think that's the favoured system anyway.
Yeah. The only reason I'd agree with Muniz and put a star on him is because Lewis thinks Muniz is his first choice. So I think Rodrigo Muniz for me will end up becoming a locked in first choice. A lot of people will have eyes on him because he'll be a cheap enabler
I think
for sure up top.
those who seem determined to wildcard game week 6 should really be having a look at that this week, by the way.
Yeah. Let's talk about Leeds, James. Talk me through your Leeds lineup.
So, yeah, a few question marks on this one. I mean, Perry in goal is pretty safe. Leeds other goalkeepers aren't up to much. Jaden Bogle's safe at right back. Joe Rodon does have a yellow flag at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that he'll be first choice centre back. I didn't start Strauch and Goodmanson. We all kind of thought that Bijol would come into the team after his game week one suspension. That's not happened yet. And I spoke to Ed in the week, our Leeds correspondent, and he said there was kind of an assumption after they took the slapping at Arsenal that it would open up for Bijol to come in against Newcastle. He still didn't. And Goodmanson's obviously had quite a good start at left back. I'm just a little bit aware that obviously James Justin has signed and can obviously cover right back, left back. And if he was to see minutes, I think it's more likely at left back at the moment because I think Jaden Bogle's probably more important. The midfield's quite questionable. I think Ampadu would be kind of a definite for me as the sitter once he's back available. And I've gone Tanaka and Stack alongside that, but Longstaff was really good against Newcastle. So I think it just leaves a little bit of a question mark on the other two. Pretty certain that Ampadu would be first choice. Then it's two from three. I would say it probably is Tanaka and Stack would be the favoured for me, but that might be quite harsh on Longstaff, who remember obviously does have more experience at this level. Front three at the moment, I've gone James right, Nonso left, Calvert-Lewin up front. Now, Calvert-Lewin obviously has competition from Nemeta and Pirro, but the fact that Pirro didn't come on at all against Newcastle makes me think it's between the other two now. I think Calvert-Lewin will nick that, but I don't think that's secure. And in terms of the other two wide players, I want to see how Okafor is going to fit into this. And I'm not sure where or who that's going to impact. So too many question marks on those attacking players. So I've only got four that I feel completely comfortable with Leeds at the moment. It's Perry, Bogle, Rodon, and Ampadu.
Yeah, not a squad that I have the most knowledge on, James. So I can't really question it. I do feel like if I'm looking at a front three of Dan James, Wilfred Gnonto, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, is it 2022, 2023, or is it actually 2025?
I think
Because I feel like we're going back in years, mate.
Leeds are going to really struggle to score goals.
Mm. I'll be looking at defensive players against Leeds for sure. You said that after game week one, and we've seen them
That was
only
my biggest
score.
takeaway from the
That was
Everton
it.
game, even though they
Yeah,
played really well that night.
yeah. I don't think anything changes my opinion on that. I'm in agreement with you on that. Let's talk about the champions and top of the table as it stands right now. Liverpool. Obviously, you'd think with a squad like that, they've got a lot of depth, which they do. You've gone with Alisson in goal, back two of Konate and Van Dijk. Now that we know that Mark Gahey obviously hasn't ended up there. Left back of Kirkes, right back of Frimpong. In front of that, a three of Gravenberch, McAllister, and Wirtz. In front of that, Gakpo on the left, Mo Salah on the right, Alexander Isak up top. When you're leaving, like Conor Bradley, we know what he can do at right back. You're
Szoboszlai and
leaving
Ekitike is
Szoboszlai
like
out of the pitch. You're leaving Ekiteke off the pitch. I look at that and I'm just like, yeah, if you're leaving Bradley, Szoboszlai, and Ekiteke as rotators, you can't put stars on Frimpong, Gravenberch, McAllister, Wirtz, or Gakpo because they'll all get Szoboszlai, Bradley, and Ekiteke will get minutes, and some of these players will drop out. I can see Ekiteke playing on the left instead of Gakpo.
I mean,
I can see Szoboszlai coming in for McAllister for a game. I can see Bradley playing. So I think what you've put down there in terms of who's nailed and who's not, I'm in agreement with.
I mean, if Szoboszlai stayed at right back, then the rest of it, he nearly locked the rest of it, I think. I think Gakpo, I ummed and ahed about whether to start Gakpo or not, because I think he's kind of clear that he will be the first on the left. But I kind of wanted to think in my head, like, could I look at a player and think, right, you'll start 8 out of 10, for example, or 4 out of 5. I didn't quite have that confidence to feel that. Now, with because of Szoboszlai, I felt that with all the midfield. Like, is there a chance here that McAllister just plays deeper this year and it's Szoboszlai and Wirtz ahead of that? And then I thought about that and I was like, no, Gravenberch is too important to them. Like going into the Newcastle game, we were like, who drops out for him?
Mm.
And there were things that fell in, like McAllister's other half going into labour, and you're like, okay, so that solved that problem. And then we didn't really get the answer for the Arsenal game because Szoboszlai played at right back. Now, I
Yep.
don't think that sticks long term. Because what does that mean for Frimpong and Bradley? So just think ultimately we're going to get quite a bit of rotation in that area, which is a blessing for Liverpool if they're all fit to be able to, rest McAllister, I'll play Szoboszlai, or I'll leave Wirtz out for this one, for example. It's a blessing for Liverpool to be in that position. And clearly Ekiteke will get really strong minutes. But it wasn't a doubt in my mind that Isak has not been brought to be, I'm going to start 3 out of 5.
No,
He's going to start 4
he's
out
too
of
good.
5, isn't he?
He's too good. He's too good. Yeah. And unlike some people, I mean, I think he's going to go straight into the team next week. A lot of people think they'll be eased in, but I think he's going to be straight.
I really, 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 really strongly do not think he'll start at Burnley. Please remember they play at Burnley on Sunday. They got Athletic Madrid on Wednesday and then Everton Saturday lunchtime. So if you put him straight in, you can't make someone who's had not a proper pre-season. Remember, he didn't even get off the bench for Sweden on Friday night to like come in and then play all those 3 games straight away. Now, there's a small chance that it could be like 60, 60, 60 and Ekiteke plays 30, 30, 30. Like there's a small chance. But I think it'd be too much of a slap for Ekiteke. I think like when the games come thick and fast and you can say, right, you know what? You're going to play Burnley, you're going to play Atletico, and we'll debut Isak maybe against Everton. It feels like it will be something like that for me.
That's going to be goals between the two of them, isn't it? You could easily see both of them.
Liverpool and Everton?
50, no, Isak and Ekiteke. I think between them, Isak's good for 20 goals. Ekiteke easily 15 goals for the season. That's two very high quality strikers.
We had a little bit of a meet up on Friday night. Shout out my boy Stian particularly.
Yes.
But I want to pose this question to you because it was an interesting little debate. Who scores more goals in the Premier League this season? Isak or Voltemade and Vissa together?
I feel a fraud answering it because I've never really seen Voltemade play.
Go on
but
then,
I think
Ford.
it'd be pretty close. I think it'd be pretty close. I think Isak's good for 20. I'd say 12 to 15 for Voldemort, another 5 or 10. I think the Newcastle boys would probably do it, but I don't think it'd be by much. If Liverpool find a way of integrating Isak and playing really fluidly in attack, Isak could be a 30 goal season.
I think once Isak's settled, I think he'll go mental.
Yeah, it's
And I think
possible.
that might be a couple of months away, by the way.
It's possible. It's possible. Right, let's talk about Manchester City. I feel like when I look at what you've done with the 11 there,
I just threw 11 darts, so it's just that's all I did. But
they
actually, I
have
left Haaland and threw 10 darts.
in a weird way they have really good depth, but the first 11 isn't as strong as some of the others. That I think there's teams that have a better first 11, but City then do have the depth that a lot of the other squads have. Let's take a Crystal Palace, for example, right? I reckon Palace's first 11 gives the City first 11 a hell of a game, or even Bournemouth, but the depth for those kind of clubs just isn't there. So City, I look at the bench and you've got players on there that you could argue the case would get into the first 11 of a lot of the other Premier League teams, but there's a lot of clubs that will give this 11 a match. You've gone with Donnarumma in goal. Absolutely agree with you. Stones and Guardiola as the two centre backs, probably right, but again, you've not starred any of them, and I understand why, because Ruben Diaz and Guardiola as a pair, you could see Stones is only ever 4 or 5 games away from picking up another
Well, he
knock that
pulled
rules
out
him
England
out as
squad, didn't
well.
he? So
Yeah, it's awful. Eight Nori at left back, you've starred.
yeah, I think it's probably pretty safe.
It's getting there now. I think Guardiola playing left-sided centre back a bit more is there. Nunes at right back, but again, it's circumstance dependent. Rico Lewis, you could easily put in there and swap them. They're 50-50. So I understand that. Rodri, yes, if he's fit. Reinders, yes, if he's fit.
I wouldn't even, by
Haaland,
the way,
yes, if he's
be
fit.
surprised if Stones played right back later in the season. And you had a build up of like Stones, Diaz, Vardiol, and then really push eight Nori. And then you need the players right wing to really hold the touchline and City build a back three that way. And it would be a possibility because that right back position, again, as discussed with Johnny on COTC, is a real headache.
Yeah. So the spine of the attack or midfield and attack, Rodri, Reinders, Haaland, star them all day long. I wouldn't put Foden in the best 11 necessarily on recent form. I'd probably play Marmoush where you have placed Foden. You could argue the case on Doku, Savino instead of Bob Marmoush. Bernardo Silva, he goes back to as Mr. Reliable. We know Cherky's out for a little while, so maybe not so much him. They've got options there. None of them fill me with fear other
I
than the
just
robot
felt
up top in Erling Haaland.
Yeah, I think in terms of safety here for FPL, we almost going eight Norrie, Reinders, Haaland, and just forget everything else. I know a few people want to latch on to Rodri because he had an incredible scoring year a couple of years ago. I really don't think he's going to get
It's a
anywhere
different
near
City
that.
team. It was a different
And
City
also,
team.
we should accept that he may be a different player now as
Mm.
well. Um, when I wrote all the names down, Suj, and I was thinking about, I think, kind of how Pep would like to set up. And we know you look for those on YouTube looking at a graphic, like it moves a lot more than this, obviously. But when I wrote it all down, I was like, if you can get Phil Foden to Phil Foden surely is in Manchester City's best 11 as
Yeah.
one of, if it's a 4-1-4-1, essentially is what we've seen so far. Foden and Reinders feels right if you can get the Phil Foden that we hope will come back, right? Most of us will hope that anyway. So yeah, but no confidence in. I mean, he's injured at the moment anyway. No confidence in Marmoush or Bob. We should factor in that Savino's not been considered yet. It was links to Tottenham. He's had an injury as well. Wouldn't surprise me if we're sitting here in a month and Savino's playing every week. So no confidence in the others.
Yep. Cool. Let's talk about the other side of Manchester. Manchester United. Now they've got a couple of signings to integrate in, starting with the goalkeeper. You put Lemons in goal, which I think I agree. They've bought him to start.
I just think
whether or not he gets
ultimately
a train.
Binder is not good enough, so he will get in, even if it's
Yeah.
not straight away.
You've got a back three there of Lenny Yoro, Delit, and Martinez. Wing backs, Ahmad on one side, Dorgu on the other. Midfield two of Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes with Cunha and Mbumo behind Seshko. I think I agree with your team there. I don't know. You could maybe Argue that Mainu might be a better fit than Casemiro because he's probably got more legs on certain situations. Mason Mount offers something that maybe Cunha or Mbumu doesn't. Sometimes he might mix that up a little bit. Luke Shaw, left-sided centre back, I think is a risk for Martinez as well.
Martinez is due back very soon.
Yeah, and I wouldn't surprise me if Aiden Heaven gets minutes in and around it as well. But that's why all of those players that I've talked about, you haven't starred. Is Fernandez and Bumo the only ones
That's
you've
it.
starred, and that's it. All the others will play 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10. I agree with you. It's just they have got options.
Next closest would have been Cunha, but as I said to you after the Arsenal game, I'm a little bit of concern about how they might want to press in certain games, and if Sesko does well, then I think that can easily become Mason Mount in certain games or Mainu.
I would start Sesko really. I don't think Xerxes offers what Sesko does.
But I
So
think
maybe
for
he'd be.
Benjamin Sesko to be in a position where I was giving him the star, he's got to show people something first.
It's got to score some
And so
goals.
far, he's shown nothing.
Yeah, it's got to score some goals. I agree. Should we talk about
I don't think it's just a goals thing, Suj.
pressing, work rate,
All
all
the
of that
things that go
stuff?
into it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's a young forward,
Yeah, of
and
course.
I'm sure he's been bought for a reason. So let's see what he adds to that team. He's obviously not had the most amount of minutes yet, so we will see what he
I think next
offers.
closest to feeling secure with Euro and Delit. So Alex
Yep.
spoke to us in pre-season a lot about really being confident in Delit over Maguire. That's shown to be spot on so far. With Euro, very close. Just a little bit of Maxwell. He's just come back recently, and he's quite comfortable in that position as well. Similarly, left-sided centre back. There's a load of options that can play in those positions. And because of Dallo, I didn't really feel too comfortable in either the wing backs. Like Dorgu just got left out against Burnley. It's probably Dallo and Dorgu against City, I would guess. So I don't think then you can look at. So it's possibly going to be circumstantial in terms of the opponents. I didn't really feel safe on any of them.
Let's talk about Newcastle Magpies. I look at your 11, and I think that's Newcastle's best 11. So I would have starred all of them, except that I do understand where you haven't particularly starred them. Pope in goal, Livramento, Share, Burn, Hall as a back four. The midfield three we know: Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joel Linton. Elanga right wing, Gordon on the left with Voltemade up top. Now you haven't starred Lewis Hall because you think what Livramento could play on the left and
No, I tell you
Trippier
what it
comes in on the
is.
right, or he goes into midfield.
I think Livramento, whether it's right back or left back, is going to play. I think at the moment Fabian Schär will play. Um, at the moment Dan Burn will play. I just think there's a chance in the short term because Hall's had a difficult pre-season that we end up with a scenario where even Burn's left back
Botman
and
comes into the
Botman's
middle.
left-sided centre back. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Lewis Hall, by the way. For me, I'm like, can we get him in the team as quick as possible? So he's playing for England next summer, because that would be my first choice left back in that position. So I do think so. I just kind of wanted to highlight a little concern about it. Tonali and Guimaraes Givens, just with Joel Linton, a little bit of, I think we've seen over the last year a little bit more wear and tear with him and with the involvement in Champions League. I think we could see plenty of minutes for Jacob Ramsey in Premier League games.
Agree.
So
And we saw it in the last game.
I think he would be fair if Newcastle had a cup final tomorrow. Joe Linton plays if he's fit, but I
Absolutely.
don't think it's something we could look at moving forward that is definitively always going to play moving forward. Gordon will be first choice on the left. I think you knew with your Harvey Barnes scenario that this was the case anyway, and it was go in and try and hope he
Yeah, three
explodes over
weeks.
3 games.
Three
Yeah.
weeks and then out again. Yeah.
Ilanga on the right, but I don't think it's completely secure,
Yeah,
particularly maybe
Murphy's had a good
when Murphy
last
does
12,
such a good job
12, 18 months.
defensively
Yeah.
from that position as well. I would say, yes, he's first choice, but probably not enough from a fancy perspective to feel comfortable moving forward in the long term. At the moment, Waltemade and Visser in my mind is a toss of a coin, frankly.
Really?
I don't
You don't
really
think
know how that's going to
Voltemade
go.
is first choice?
Well, I think with Visser, the reason I just favoured him at the start is not knowing kind of really what pre-season Visser's had and how ready he is. So my inkling on it was that Voltemade might get the nod first and it's his to lose kind of gig. But I think they will share a lot of minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how they play out. What price has Voltemade come into FPL
This
at?
is cheaper than this is seven. This is 7.5.
Right. Okay. Be interesting to see that. Very interesting.
I feel like you'd only feel comfortable in it though if the other one was injured. And then you factor in that would be a great one. If you had Newcastle playing once a week and Vissa was out for a couple of months, you go, yeah, Baltimore, really interested. With the Champions League as well, no. I know like with Gimres and Tonali and Gordon, they won't get rested much.
Right. Let's talk about Nottingham Forest. Prior to the West Ham game, I almost felt like the team that started the West Ham game was their first choice 11 and the one they would go to. But now, when we look at the depth they've got in a couple of positions, it does become a little bit of a question mark. You've gone with Sells in goal, the traditional back four that we've had from Forest for so long, with Aina, a right back, Milenkovic, Murillo, centre backs, Nico Williams on the left. You've starred him. I think that's one that we should have a little discussion about.
Yep.
Elliot Anderson's a lock, Gibbs White a lock, and Chris Wood a lock as that kind of spine of the midfield and attack. You put Douglas Luiz alongside Elliot Anderson, and we know Sangare has been playing a lot there. Left wing, you've gone Hudson-Odoi. Right, you've got Dan Ndoye. You've not starred Hudson-Odoi, Ndoye, and Luiz. I can understand not starring Douglas Luiz because of the Sangare thing. That I really think is a bit of a toss-up between the two of them. You've starred Nico Williams. They've got Zinchenko in from Arsenal. I don't think he's a threat. But defensively, he's the only one that is potentially a question mark for me. And I can understand not starring Dan and Doy because of the threat from McAtee, who will probably get quite a few minutes as well.
And Hutchinson and Bakwa and
Omari
Callum
Hutchinson.
Owendo.
I don't know enough about Bakwa and Kalimuendo and their what they offer. So you convinced me that those. I mean, when you look at it, McAtee, Hutchison, Bakwa, Kalimendo. Yeah, sure, that's definitely a threat enough for Hudson-Odoi and Dan Ndoye to say that they are not locked in. So yeah, from that kind of point of view, I can understand not wanting to star them. I do think what you've put out there is their first choice 11. Though I'd probably go Sangare over Douglas Luiz, you know.
I also, when I did this, I tried to think that there could be a different manager there in a few weeks. I tried to factor
That's
that
also
into
true.
my thinking. I think in terms of Williams versus Sinchenko, if Sinchenko is going to be considered a left back, and he might not be. They might look at him as a midfield player for European games as a possibility. I think Mark said in the summary was really clear that whatever they did, Williams had the potential now to really kick on to be a top player to the extent that it could even be that Williams would maybe even just play at right back and Aina would miss a game. And I think I look at things like Sunderland at home in game week 6, which is a great fixture. And I don't think for that one-off game we couldn't rule out Zinchenko plays at left back, for example, or they bring Savannah in for a game, or they change the wide players, or even Wood or a Gibbs White didn't play. They go to Betis 3 days before they play Sunderland. Like we haven't got anything to know what that looks like for Nottingham Forest now, right? In terms of rotation, but I still think largely the goalkeeper and the back four will play the majority of the games. Anderson and Gibbs White are too good not to. And I'd see no reason why Wood won't still have favouritism as long as Nuno's still in charge. It will definitely be Wood at the moment.
Okie dokie. Let's talk about the Black Cats, shall we, James? Sunderland, who obviously have been so active in the transfer window. It doesn't surprise me that you have only starred 3 of their players.
And one of them, I mean, 2 of them are cop outs. I mean, Roast and Xhaka is fine.
Yeah, exactly that. Go on, talk me through what you think, or is this just a case of, I don't know, guys, let's see what happens?
No, I wouldn't say it's I don't know, because I think it will be quite close to this. Roast will be number 1. I think Gertruda might become the first choice right back over Hume. He was getting linked with a lot of clubs last summer, but as said on Friday with David, I wasn't that impressed with him at Euros. Michele can play fullback or centre back. He might be in a scenario where, because Ballard's out injured for a little bit, that he just gets the shirt and runs with it. Alderete, I'm pretty confident in. Reynaldo left back, less so. Things like those penalty incidents against Sunderland weren't clever. I think Diarra will play a lot. I think you was really impressed with him game week 1, weren't you,
I
against
mean,
your
yeah,
team?
he's a good player. He's a good player.
Sadiq, he's probably got favouritism at the moment, but I do think there's a scenario where maybe Lafay plays a little bit more centrally and someone else comes in out wide. So I've got Lafay on the left at the moment. He obviously had a really good game against Brentford. Talby on the right and Mienda up front. There are more threats now. So Bertrand Traore's been bought. Obviously, they bought Brabe, Mr. Brabe up front. You've got Isidore, Romain Mundle's been injured, Adingra. Those are kind of the attacking competitions. So in terms of the front three makeup, I think you can expect players to potentially even get subbed quite early or regular changes to that sort of lineup. The back four, I'm confident in, but not that confident to say to anyone right now because they've just changed so much to say to anyone, yeah, these guys will definitely play. I don't. Alderete would be the closest of that back line, but I don't have huge confidence in it.
I just look at it all over the place, and I'm like, "What? Dan Ballard's not getting in there. Dinger's not getting in there. Yeah, this is going to be a very tricky one to see how they settle."
I mean, that is pretty much. I mean, it is, isn't it? Other than Lafay and Mienda, that's a whole new team, and within that, you've got other players on the bench that are new as well.
Yep.
There's so many additions there, so feeling quite positive about them, my lad. But in terms of the fantasy element of it, I would say they're the really good opening three fixtures. The fixtures now get tougher. You might be looking to move what you've got on anyway.
Yep. Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur, James. Your club. You have ended up starring against 6 players in this lineup, and I can understand why you have starred who you have starred. Vicario in goal, I'm in agreement, obviously, is a lock. Romero and Van der Ven as centre backs and Porro as right back. You haven't put a star on your left back in Udogie. I guess there is always a threat of Jed Spence there, who has been playing really well. So
At least it's Jed Spence's shirt to lose as it stands.
yeah, I can understand that. Though Udogie was the main man for most of last season. The midfield too, you haven't starred, and I completely agree with that as well because you've got some options there. Paulinho and Bentancur, as it stands at the moment, Bissouma is still with the club. You could play Archie Gray in there. Perhaps Sarr doesn't make it into your first choice 11 as it stands. Let's not forget Bergvall, who you consider one of the best footballers within the squad as well. So that's tricky. You start Kudus on the right. Makes sense. You haven't got too much there that I think is a threat to him.
Particularly Kulusevski is going to be like December-ish, we think. So
Xavi Simons, you've starred, and I think in that number 10 role, I think that's also fair. You haven't starred Solanke up top and Kolo Muani on the left, and I completely understand that. Richarlison's shirt to lose, similar to Jed Spence right now. Richarlison's had a good start to the season, and it seems like Thomas Frank likes him. On the left, you could put Johnson out there, should you want to. You could put Odebear out there, should you want to. You could put Matej Tel out there, should you want to. I think there's no guarantee about Kolo Muani coming in and taking that shirt at all. So, truth be told, I looked down what you've put there and it just makes sense.
yeah, the few bits I should probably clarify. We'll start at the top end. So I do think all in, if once they're both at their peak, I do think Solanke would still have favouritism over Richarlison. We don't know how bad Solanke's ankle injury is. It could be really minor. There has been some reports of 2 months. I don't think that makes Richarlison safe anyway. They've obviously gone and bought Kolo Muani, who can absolutely play up front. I do think that the intention, and it's only think, I will stress this, might be to play him off the left. I think there's concerns about goals within that team. And if you take Johnson out, that's the one thing that you are losing is his guarantee of double figures of goals, right? It doesn't guarantee you a lot else, but it does guarantee you that. So I think if you're going to potentially move him out, playing Kolo Muani out there might be something that they look at. That's by no means secure. Simmons is definitely going to play. That's not to say he'll definitely play in game week 4, by the way. But
Simmons has come in as a midfielder in FPL.
He's a midfielder. He's in
7.
at 7, and Kolo Muani's in as a forward at 7.
Oh, that's a bit expensive.
I can't tell you that Simmons will definitely play against West Ham, but I'm fairly certain that by the time we play Villarreal on the Tuesday, he'll be in the team. The only
Okay.
question mark at the moment is where, because that could still certainly be, say, Sarr stays as the 10, particularly even in the
Mm.
Champions League games, and Simmons maybe just plays off the left, and Colomwani competes with Richarlison. That's a different way of potentially doing it. I think in terms of if Simmons is going to be the 10, then it kind of becomes two from four in midfield. I spoke after the Bournemouth game about wanting Bergvall to play a fixture like Bournemouth rather than Paulinho. So I think it's midfield opponent dependent. And Sarr's been really good so far this season. So I don't think I could look at that and go, it's definitively Bentancur over Sarr. Not at all. And left back is kind of similar to the Solanke Richarlison thing. I know a lot of people disagree with this, but in my mind, Destiny Udogie is much stronger than Jed Spence. Gives way better balance. And for me, as long as he can overcome his injury issues, as and when, he would be first choice in my mind.
Okay. Let's move on to my club, West Ham United. You have starred 5 players from this lineup of 11. I think you could have gone as far as maybe 8, to be honest with you, James. I agree with your lineup. You've gone with Hermansen in goal, a back 4 right to left of Wan-Bissaka, Mavropanos, Kilman and Diouf, which was bar Wan-Bissaka. It was the centre-back pairing that played against Forest. Magassa and Fernandez as 2 in midfield, with Bowen, Paqueta, Somerville as a 3 behind the striker of Callum Wilson. Hermansen, Kilman, Diouf starred. I absolutely agree with. I get your reasoning behind not starring Mavropanos because Todibo has been there.
I wasn't 100% on Kilman, by the way.
Igor Julio's come in deadline day mainly as cover, but we understand that part of the reason he didn't want to sign for Palace was that he wasn't guaranteed minutes. Well, I don't think he came across to the Thames and West Ham guaranteed in minutes. So if they did, then does that mean he gets into the team? Well, you've got Todibo. You've got a risk there with Todibo as well, potentially. So I can understand why there could potentially be a bit of
the reason I still did, because I thought about this, and what I determined was that actually if Julio was going to play regularly enough, then he probably would just play with Kilman and they'd move him back to right-sided centre-back. That's what I determined.
Yeah, I think so. Kilman's been the one that's been consistent throughout when we've played Aged and Todibo and Mavropanos have all rotated around. The Wan-Bissaka Walker-Peters thing, I agree. Wan-Bissaka's the stronger, better player. It's a bit like your Jed Spence and Udogie thing. Wan-Bissaka's probably the better, stronger player, but Walker-Peters hasn't done anything to deserve getting dropped at the moment. So let's see. I think you could star Magassa and Fernandez as a 2 in midfield, but they haven't played together yet, and we haven't seen how Potter wants to use them. So I can understand why you haven't. In my world, I would play the 2 of them.
With ours, like putting Simmons in as the star with the amount of money we spent, feels like it's going in for a position that we knew we needed. Because you've added, I mean, obviously Fernandez did play at Forest, but he played off the left. So I haven't seen where he is intended, it feels like. And I don't know how that looks with Magassa. So
and we also
didn't feel right.
Yeah, I completely understand why you wouldn't want to star them. One of the criticism we level at Potter is he just keeps reverting back to chucking in Ward-Prowse and Thomas Souček. Ward-Prowse is like his son that he never had that he just keeps wanting to roll out. So you wouldn't surprise me if he still wants to use those guys. Somerville off the left. The Wilson Fulkrug, I'm probably 51-49 that Wilson's going to keep edging ahead.
I was
he keeps
about
playing
60,
like he is,
60-40.
If he keeps playing like he is, then he will streak ahead and do well. But Fulkrug offers a lot to the team as well. So I would say this is our strongest 11 if we line up like this. Just about.
That looks, by the way, that looks so much better than it did a couple of weeks ago, mate.
And the irony is, I mean, okay, we've changed the keeper and we've added Magassa and Fernandez. So, it's not.
Well, I think it's the extra energy in this of Somerville Wilson as well.
Plus, playing 4 at the back gives that extra midfielder, whereas 3 at the back didn't. So let's see how it plays out. But I agree with you here. And when he wants safety in certain fixtures, chucking out Souček will happen all the time. But hopefully Magassa, Fernandez offer that legs in midfield. Let's see. Last but not least, Wolverhampton Wanderers, James. Talk me through your 11 here. You've got the three at the back set up for them.
Yeah, so Jose Sarr in goal, back three. Santiago Bueno started the last game against Everton, and Matt Doherty didn't have a great game from Ireland the other night either. So I've gone Bueno, maybe right-sided centre back now. Agbadu's the only one I feel really comfortable in. No, I haven't started Toti Gomez, the third player, because we don't quite know how much of an impact that Krejci, who they've signed, was on the bench against Everton. That's his position as well, and they've not started well, so I don't think we should rule out a little bit of chopping and changing back there. Chichua will definitely be first choice right wing back. Very
Hmm.
confident in Axe. Kai Hovers, as Bradley will tell you, is not good enough. Hugo Bueno started the last game at left wing back, but I think Rolfo probably will be first choice. João Gomez and Andre midfield. I've not starred Andre though, because I don't know if there's a feeling that Bellegarde might give them a bit more legs in that area, but I've got Andre in the team. Fer Lopez and John Arias behind Larson. I think Fermin Lopez, I think, will push on. He had a really good cameo appearance against Everton last week, and I know many of the Wolves fans are like, get him in the team, basically. So, but there's enough impact there for Lopez and areas of Bellegarde, Manetzi, Huang, even Kalidzic. He's an out and out nine, but he's got himself fit, and they bought Tolu Arokadea, who will compete with Larson as well. But Larson, once he's fit, is definitely first choice, no doubt on him. So I'm concerned about that, by the way.
Yeah, I
That team.
think I think Lopez Arias. Yeah, I can understand why you wouldn't want to start them, but I agree that's first choice. Unlike some
We've
teams,
seen nothing to make us think that Lopez is really. That's
no,
just
not yet,
how I
but
think it'll
just the
end up.
quality of that that looks to me like it's got a little bit more goals than some of the other teams we talked about, like a Leeds, for example, but it looks leaky at the other end. I feel
Imagine
like they'll end up
would you feel that way if you took Larson out though?
no,
Yeah.
no. Replace Larson with Huang, and I know Huang scored in the last game, but was it the last game? Game before. He scored anyway in the league so far.
He scored against Everton, did he? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. But then Larson banged in two against us in when he came off the bench in the League Cup. He's the main man there in terms of the goals.
Huang's
Yeah,
a little bit
it's
like Johnson in that. I mean, he's nothing like Johnson as a player, but give him enough minutes, he will contribute to that. But I don't know if that's better for Wolves to have him in the team personally.
yeah, indeed. Cool. Nice. That's a quick rundown of I say quick, reasonable rundown of all 11 teams, James.
11?
Uh, 11 players for the 20 teams. My apologies, listeners. Cool. We don't have any questions in this particular episode, but we definitely would like your opinions on what you think will play out for your club. Whether you're jumping on X/Twitter to share the show with your opinion or the comments on YouTube. While you're there, you can always subscribe to the show and ring the bell, get notified as soon as any content goes out. James, what's the other content for the rest of this week that everybody has to look forward to as you build up to game week 4?
Yeah, two more clash of correspondence this week. So Bournemouth versus Brighton tomorrow, Neil Grover, Sam Murray. It's the Planet FPL derby on Wednesday. It's West Ham United versus Tottenham Hotspur, Chris Stone and Ricky Saunders. Ask James is scheduled for 12 p.m. Thursday, and David will be back with me for the weekend on Friday. David's also joining me for our UCL Fantasy podcast. We'll be starting up this week on Patreon. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. We've got a Q&A today, UCL on Tuesday, Being Dad on Thursday, Differential Show Friday, and Victor Sundal is guesting and hosting a quiz for me on Wednesday.
Lovely jubbly. There's some advanced tier content as well. I'm on Nico's Corner this week.
You are on Nico's Corner this week, which I will open up to the Intermediate Plus tier patrons, by the way.
Oh dear. I'm flying all the way back to England this week. So
And we're recording nothing together.
whilst I should, well, that's why I'm recording with Nico, mate.
Pretty much.
Speak of the man that's the most important man in Planet FPL. As James mentioned there, if you want to support the show, it's patreon.com/Planet FPL, as well as all of that additional content. You get access to our Slack community with hundreds of engaged awesome FPL managers, super friendly, cool bunch of people. You get our prize leagues, you get James's fixture planning spreadsheet, and a bunch of other benefits as well, like FPL team on a premium account to plan your team out, and so on and so on. Head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. You can learn all about it there. Most importantly, wherever you listen to the podcast, subscribe, leave us a review, stay safe, look after yourselves, play it your way. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other and play it your way. Cue music, please. Man child.